The room fell dead silent. Every executive present had their eyes locked on me the instant the words left his mouth. You're terminated. Effective immediately. Collect your belongings and leave the premises. 24 hours before the largest product launch this company had ever attempted, $350 million riding on one single moment, and Gregory Hartwell, CEO of Vertex Technologies, had just fired his director of digital infrastructure. Me. The irony landed even harder when he tacked on. For willful disobedience and insubordination. Nobody in that mahogany-paneled room understood what he actually meant by that, what he was truly punishing me for, what I'd refused to do. They'd find out soon enough. Because at 11:47 that night, sitting alone in my apartment with a glass of wine and my laptop open, I clicked through 7 confirmations, 7 domain registrations I personally owned, personally maintained, and personally paid for across 4 years. Deactivated. Every one. The main site, the product pages, the customer portal, investor relations, the press kit, the mobile backend, the entire e-commerce system. Gone. By 6:15 the next morning my phone had started buzzing non-stop. I didn't pick up. By 6:30, 47 missed calls. By 7, 112. The $350 million launch was set for 9 a.m. Eastern. Press conferences in 3 countries, live demos in New York, San Francisco, and Chicago, satellite feeds to 14 major news outlets, and nowhere for a single person to go, because typing in the company's web address led to nothing but a blank screen where Vertex Technologies used to live. Before I go any further, if you're here because you believe accountability matters, because you know there's always more beneath the surface of a story like this, hit that subscribe button. We just hit our first milestone together. And now we're chasing 2,000 subscribers. Your support keeps stories like this one alive, the ones that never make it into a corporate press release, the ones that actually matter.
Ai mai une castellanos.
For 4 years I worked as Director of Digital Infrastructure at Vertex Technologies, a semiconductor manufacturer headquartered in Austin, Texas. Before that, I climbed the ladder across 3 different tech companies, starting as a junior systems administrator straight out of Arizona State. My parents came to the U.S. from the Philippines in 1989. My father worked as an electrical engineer, my mother taught high school math. We weren't rich, but we did fine. More importantly, they taught me things that clearly weren't part of the curriculum at Harvard Business School or a Stanford MBA program, that your word means something, that integrity isn't up for negotiation, and that the people actually doing the work deserve as much respect as the ones taking credit for it. My mother used to tell me, Iona, you can have every advantage in the world and still lack character. Real strength is remembering where you came from when you're standing at the top. I never forgot that, not even when standing at the top meant standing completely alone. 4 years before all this, Vertex Technologies was a solid but unremarkable mid-tier semiconductor company. Around $800 million in annual revenue, decent contracts with automotive and consumer electronics clients, nothing that turned heads. Then Gregory Hartwell stepped in as CEO. He came out of the venture capital world with the right pedigree. A Wharton MBA, 2 successful exits, a couple of Forbes profiles, and promised the board he'd turn Vertex into a multi-billion-dollar company within 5 years. The plan? Build proprietary chip technology for the growing autonomous vehicle market, lock down exclusive deals with major automakers, and establish Vertex as the premium name in a market projected to reach $400 billion by 2030. On paper it was a great strategy. In practice, it demanded a total rebuild of our digital infrastructure. That's where I entered the picture. I was brought on 6 months into Gregory's tenure, after a grueling hiring process, 3 technical evaluations, 5 interview rounds, a background check that dug all the way back to my high school coffee shop job. Lawrence Chan, the VP of technology at the time and a methodical engineer, asked me one question I still remember word for word. If you had to choose between meeting a deadline and maintaining system security, which would you choose? I answered without hesitating. Security. Every time. A delayed launch costs money. A security breach costs everything. He smiled. You're exactly who we need. I started the following month. My assignment was massive. Rebuild the company's entire digital footprint from scratch. New website architecture, cloud migration, CRM systems, supply chain integration, cybersecurity, and domain management. Everything. I put together a team of 12 specialists, And we worked 16-hour days for 7 straight months. I personally took charge of every domain registration, having learned the hard way at previous jobs that domain security gets ignored right up until it becomes a disaster. Corporate cards get declined, billing teams forget renewals, authorization rules shift, and domains lapse. So I registered everything under my own accounts, with airtight documentation confirming Vertex Technologies as the beneficiary. I kept meticulous records, every expense reimbursed, every registration disclosed to Lawrence and legal. It was standard procedure in my field. Careful, professional. Nobody blinked at it. Nobody cared about the technical minutiae. They cared about results and we delivered them. By the second year, the digital overhaul was finished. Our website became something the industry pointed to as a model. Our customer portal processed $200 million a year in transactions. Our supply chain platforms connected 47 manufacturing partners across 6 countries. Revenue jumped to $1.2 billion. Gregory's star rose right along with it. Tech magazines profiled him, conferences booked him as a keynote, and the board renewed his contract with stock options worth $60 million if targets were hit. Somewhere in that climb, something in the company changed. The collaborative culture Lawrence had built started giving way to something colder and more cutthroat. Performance reviews turned into weapons. Teams were set against each other. Anyone who questioned a decision got labeled as not a team player. Disruptive innovation became the excuse for practices that were increasingly hard to justify. Lawrence left after a reorg wiped out his role and split his responsibilities among 3 new VPs reporting straight to Gregory. I stayed. Not because I agreed with where things were headed, but because my team depended on their paychecks, because the work still mattered to me, because leaving felt like abandoning something I'd built with my own hands. I told myself I could hold on to my principles while adapting to the new reality. For a while I actually managed it. Then came Project Titan, the internal code name for an autonomous vehicle chip, supposedly set to reshape the whole industry. 3 years in development, $180 million in R&D, exclusive manufacturing deals with 2 major automakers worth $350 million combined over 5 years. Launch day was set for October 15th, full media blitz, simultaneous events in multiple cities, celebrity tech endorsements, all of it. Everything was locked and ready: the website, the landing pages, press kits, product specs, the pre-order system. My team had executed flawlessly. Every system tested, every backup verified, every security layer checked. Then, 8 days before launch, an email arrived from Gregory's assistant. Meeting. Tomorrow 8 a.m. Conference room A. Mandatory attendance. No agenda attached, no explanation given. 7 of us sat around that table the next morning. Gregory at the head. Chief Operating Officer Vincent Ramirez beside him. Amanda Fletcher, the new VP of Technology who'd taken Lawrence's spot. CFO Thomas Brandt. 2 unfamiliar faces from legal. And me. Gregory skipped straight past small talk. "We have a problem," he said, pulling a presentation up on the screen. "The third quarter numbers are bad. Worse than bad. We're $40 million under projection." Thomas walked through the specifics: supply chain issues, delayed contracts, manufacturing costs on Titan running higher than planned. None of this surprised anyone paying attention. The whole industry was drowning in component shortages and shipping chaos. "The board is getting nervous," Gregory went on. "They need reassurance that Titan will deliver the projected revenue. We need the launch to exceed expectations." Still sounded reasonable enough, worrying but reasonable. Then Vincent spoke up. "We need to adjust some of the technical specifications on the website and promotional materials. Make the performance metrics more competitive." My stomach dropped. "Competitive how?" I asked. Amanda pulled up a document: side-by-side comparisons of current specs against recommended adjustments. Processing speed up 23%. Energy efficiency up 31%. Heat dissipation improved 19%. Failure rate down 40%. None of it was true. The actual chip was genuinely solid, innovative in places, but these figures were invented, in some cases physically impossible given the architecture. "You want me to publish false specifications?" I said. "Not a question. A statement. We want you to publish optimized marketing language," Vincent corrected. "Aspirational targets, industry standard positioning." These aren't aspirational targets. These are lies, quantifiable, verifiable lies that will be exposed the moment anyone actually tests the product. Gregory's face hardened. Iona, I need you to understand something. This launch represents the future of this company. Everything we've built leads to this moment. The specifications are within acceptable variance ranges. They're not. They're fabrications. And the legal team has reviewed the language. Everything is compliant with advertising standards when properly contextualized. I glanced at the two attorneys. Neither one looked back at me. The meeting dragged on another 40 minutes. They tried every angle, appeals to loyalty, financial pressure, suggestions that I was being too technical, that marketing always involves some optimization. Vincent hinted that my pushback came from not understanding business realities. Thomas brought up the fact that my $85,000 annual bonus depended on Titan launching successfully. Amanda offered to personally handle the website changes herself if I wasn't comfortable doing it. The lawyers said nothing at all. Eventually Gregory cut it off. Iona, I need your answer. Will you implement these updates to the digital materials, or won't you? Everyone at that table was watching me. I thought about my team, 12 people who trusted my leadership, who'd run themselves rag because I told them it mattered. I thought about my parents, about my mother's voice. Real strength is remembering where you came from when you're standing at the top. I thought about the engineers who'd actually built the chip, the technicians who'd manufactured it, the customers who'd trust these numbers while making purchases worth millions. No, I said. I won't. The temperature in that room dropped 10 degrees instantly. Excuse me. Gregory's voice went quiet. Dangerous. I won't comply with fraud. I won't compromise the integrity of the systems my team built. If you want to proceed with this approach, you'll need to find someone else to implement it. Vincent actually laughed. Iona, do you understand what you're saying? You're refusing a direct order from the CEO. I'm refusing to commit fraud. The word hung there like a live grenade. Gregory rose slowly from his chair. Fraud is a very serious accusation. False advertising is a very serious crime. So is securities fraud if these specifications are being used to mislead investors. So is breach of contract if customers make purchasing decisions based on capabilities the product doesn't have. Thomas opened his mouth, but Gregory silenced him with a raised hand. I see. You've made your position clear. He turned to Amanda. You can handle the updates? She nodded instantly. Absolutely. Good. He looked back at me. Iona, thank you for your years of service. You're terminated. Effective immediately. For willful disobedience and insubordination. Collect your belongings and leave the premises. Security will escort you. They never actually called security. Just a bluff, a show of power. I walked back to my office by myself. The whole floor had gone quiet. News moves fast inside a company. My team was waiting, all 12 of them clustered outside my door. Jennifer, my senior systems architect, spoke first. Is it true? I nodded. Because of the specifications? Kyle asked, the one who ran our cybersecurity work. Word had traveled even faster than I expected. Because I wouldn't compromise what we built, I told them. What came next still gets to me. All 12 offered to walk out with me on the spot, a collective resignation. I shut that down immediately. No, absolutely not. You have families, mortgages, student loans. You don't sacrifice your livelihoods because of my decision. But you're being fired for doing the right thing, Jennifer said. Then doing the right thing is its own reward. And you'll do the right thing by staying here. Keeping these systems running properly and making sure that whatever happens next, the infrastructure doesn't hurt innocent people. I spent the next hour saying my goodbyes, wiping personal files off the company servers, and packing 4 years of my life into a cardboard box. My laptop, a coffee mug the team had given me for my birthday, a small succulent 3-frame certifications, a photo from my college graduation with my parents. At 11:30 that morning, I walked out of Vertex Technologies for the last time. By 3 p.m., Amanda had already loaded the fake specifications onto the website. By 6, they were live everywhere, the site, the product pages, press releases, investor materials, all running on infrastructure I'd built, all hosted on domains I'd registered, all still technically and legally under my personal ownership, with Vertex Technologies listed only as the beneficiary. That evening I sat down and went through my documentation. 4 years of careful records. Registration receipts, reimbursement approvals, email threads with legal acknowledging the arrangement, Lawrence's original sign-off. Everything accounted for. Everything on paper. And then I started really thinking about what beneficiary entity meant legally speaking. A beneficiary designation is an ownership transfer. It's an administrative label. A beneficiary can use and benefit from an asset, but the registered owner keeps ultimate control, especially when that beneficiary relationship is tied to an employment contract. An employment contract that had just been terminated. I called my attorney Monica Huang at 8 p.m. We'd known each other since college, and she specialized in tech law and IP. I laid it all out, the firing, the reason behind it, the domains. She went quiet for a long moment. Iona, I need to be very clear about something. What you're considering is legally complex and potentially career-defining. I know. If you deactivate those domains, Vertex will come after you with everything they have. Lawsuits, injunctions, they'll argue breach of contract, tortious interference, corporate sabotage, every theory their lawyers can conceive. Can they win? Another pause. Based on what you've described, the documentation you have, the fact that you personally registered, maintained, and paid for these domains with full disclosure and company reimbursement, but never formally transferred ownership, the fact that your employment contract was terminated, thereby ending the beneficiary relationship, can they win? I asked again. It would be an ugly fight, but no. Probably not. You'd likely prevail on the ownership question. The domains are yours. But winning a legal battle doesn't mean winning the war. They'll drag you through depositions, discovery, court appearances. They'll try to destroy your professional reputation, make you unemployable. Even if you win, it'll cost you time, money, and emotional energy you can't get back. I stared at my laptop, at the Vertex website still glowing on my screen. Amanda's name listed as technical contact. What if I'm not trying to win? I said. What if I just want them to tell the truth? Monica caught on immediately. Then you have leverage. Real leverage. But you have to be prepared to use it. All the way. No bluffing. We spent another hour on strategy, contingencies, possible outcomes. At 11 p.m. she emailed me a formal legal letter template, ready to send to Vertex's legal team. I didn't send it. Instead, at 11:47 I logged into my domain registrar. 7 domains. 7 confirmations. I clicked each one, not deleted, not transferred, just deactivated. The sites didn't vanish. Nothing was lost. Everything stayed preserved, backed up, recoverable, just switched off like flipping a light switch. Then I shut my laptop, finished my wine, and went to bed. The first call came at 6:15 a.m. I was already up, coffee brewing, yoga mat unrolled, phone on silent. I watched it light up, Gregory's cell. Then Vincent's number. Then Amanda's. Then the main office line. Then numbers I didn't recognize at all, probably other executives, board members, a crisis team. By 7, the calls had multiplied into text messages, emails, and a LinkedIn message from Thomas Brandt reading only. Call me now. I did my yoga, showered, made breakfast, fed my cat. At 8 a.m., I sent one email to Gregory's executive address, copying legal. Subject line, domain ownership and access. Body. As of 11:47 p.m. yesterday evening, I deactivated all domain registrations personally owned and maintained by me during my employment with Vertex Technologies. This action is consistent with my rights as the registered domain owner following the termination of my employment contract. I am prepared to discuss transfer of ownership or restoration of access under the following conditions. Immediate removal of all false technical specifications from any materials related to Project Titan. Public acknowledgement that previous specifications were inaccurate. Revision of all marketing materials to reflect verified, tested performance metrics. Full severance package as outlined in my original employment contract. Neutral employment reference for future opportunities. These terms are non-negotiable and time-sensitive. The product launch is scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. I await your response. Iona Castellanos. I hit send at 8:03. My phone rang a minute later. I let it go. At 8:17, an email arrived from a firm I didn't recognize, Whitmore & Associates, big, national, expensive, representing Vertex. 6 paragraphs of legal threats. Breach of contract, theft of corporate assets, extortion, tortious interference, demands for immediate restoration, warnings of civil and criminal liability. I forwarded it to Monica. She called at 8:25 laughing. They're panicking. This is the legal equivalent of a toddler throwing a tantrum. Half these theories don't even apply to your situation. Should I be worried? Should they be worried? They have a $350 million product launch in less than 25 hours and no digital presence. You have documentation proving ownership of assets you personally registered and maintained. They're the ones who should be worried. At 9:30 my doorbell rang. I checked the camera. Gregory Hartwell himself, standing there in a suit that probably cost more than my rent, Vincent beside him, both looking like they hadn't slept. I opened the door but didn't let them in. Iona, Gregory's voice was tight. We need to talk. You fired me yesterday for refusing to commit fraud. We don't have anything to talk about. This is corporate sabotage, Vincent said. You're destroying. I'm exercising my rights as a domain owner. Something your legal team acknowledged and approved for 4 years. Gregory raised a hand, cutting him off. Iona, I understand you're upset. The termination was perhaps hasty, but you have to understand the pressure we're under. The board, the investors, the contracts. The truth. I offered. He flinched. Gregory, I spent 4 years building something I was proud of, infrastructure that worked, systems that served actual purposes, a digital foundation for a company that made real products, that solved real problems. My voice stayed steady. I'd had all night to process it. And you wanted me to use that foundation to lie, to publish specifications you knew were false, to trick customers, mislead investors, and compromise everything my team worked for. For what? To hit quarterly targets? To make your stock options worth more. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You wanted to sell a product launch that didn't exist. Now you don't have a website. Seems proportional. Vincent's face went red. You smug, this is extortion. We'll have you arrested. For deactivating domains I personally own. Good luck. My attorney is waiting for that call. Gregory shot Vincent a look sharp enough to cut glass, then turned back. What do you want? I repeated my 5 conditions from the email. Impossible, Vincent said instantly. We can't pull the specifications now. The press releases are already distributed. The demos are scheduled. We'd have to delay the entire launch. Then delay it. We'd lose the automotive contracts. Both manufacturers have deadline clauses. If we don't launch by October 15th, the deals are void. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you fabricated performance metrics. Gregory was looking at me like he'd never actually seen me before. You'd really do this, he said quietly. You'd destroy the company? Put 800 people out of work? Crater the stock price? All over what principle? That question just sat there between us. The morning sun was climbing higher. Neighbors were starting their days. A woman walked her golden retriever past. A teenager rolled by on a skateboard. Ordinary people living ordinary lives. While we stood there discussing $350 million in corporate fraud like it was nothing unusual. Gregory, I said, I'm not destroying the company. You already did that when you decided lying was an acceptable business strategy. I'm just making sure the consequences land where they belong. So this is revenge? This is accountability. Vincent cut back in. We can negotiate the severance. Double it. Triple it. Name your price. The price is integrity. Something that apparently isn't in your vocabulary. I could see Gregory running calculations, hunting for an angle. If we agree to your terms, he said slowly, how quickly can you restore access? Immediately. Domains can be reactivated in minutes. And the revised specifications? That takes time, research, verification. You have the real specifications, the ones your engineering team actually tested. Use those. They're not competitive enough. The other chip manufacturers are also telling the truth about their products, or at least closer to it. Complete honesty in advertising might be a novel concept in this industry, but it's not impossible. Gregory's jaw clenched. You're asking us to potentially void $350 million in contracts, tank our stock price, and humiliate ourselves in front of the entire industry, in exchange for giving you severance we probably already owe you, and not saying bad things about you to future employers. That's not negotiation. That's corporate terrorism. I couldn't help smiling.
No, Gregory.
Corporate terrorism is what you try to do to your own customers. I'm just the IT person who remembered she owns the domains. I started closing the door. Wait. His hand caught the frame. Iona, please. There has to be a middle ground here. There is. It's called telling the truth. You have until 6 p.m. today to decide. After that, I'm assuming you're proceeding with the fraudulent launch, and I'm sending my documentation to the SEC, the FTC, and every tech journalist I know. Vincent went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. They left. I watched from my window as they sat in Gregory's Tesla for 20 minutes, clearly arguing. Vincent gesturing wildly, Gregory on the phone. Eventually they drove off. I called Monica. I just threatened to report them to the SEC. Did you mean it? Completely. Then we need to actually prepare that documentation. If you're going to make that threat, you have to be ready to follow through. We spent the next 3 hours assembling everything. Screenshots of the false specs, email threads showing my objections, records from the firing meeting, technical proof the claims were fabricated. By noon we had a complete package ready to go. I didn't hear from Vertex again until 2:47 p.m., when an email came from a different attorney. Not the Whitmore and Associates attack dogs, but someone from Vertex's internal legal team. The tone had shifted entirely, professional, conciliatory, almost apologetic. They wanted a call at 4 p.m., all parties present, to discuss a mutually beneficial resolution. Monica joined me on the call. Gregory was there, along with Vincent, Amanda, Thomas, 3 unfamiliar attorneys, and 1 board member, Elizabeth Thornton, whom I'd met exactly once at a company holiday party 2 years earlier. Elizabeth spoke first. Ms. Castellanos, I want to begin by apologizing. The board was not aware of the circumstances surrounding your termination until this morning. We've spent the day reviewing the situation, and I want to be clear. The approach taken regarding Project Titan's specifications was not approved by the board, and does not reflect Vertex Technologies' values. I glanced at Monica, who gave a small nod. Furthermore, Elizabeth continued, we've made several decisions. First, the October 15th launch is being postponed. We're announcing a 6-week delay to optimize the product demonstration experience. Second, all specifications are being revised to reflect verified performance metrics. Third, we're offering you a full severance package, neutral reference, and a formal apology. Fourth, her voice hardened slightly, we're requesting that you transfer domain ownership to the company through a properly structured legal agreement. We're prepared to compensate you for the fair market value of those domains, plus your time and effort in maintaining them over the past 4 years. Vincent looked like he was chewing glass. Gregory stared down at his hands. Amanda took notes like her career depended on it. Monica and I negotiated for another 90 minutes. By 5:30 we had a deal. Full severance of $127,000, 6 months salary plus my original bonus, $50,000 for the domain portfolio plus administrative costs, a neutral reference letter signed personally by Elizabeth Thornton, not Gregory, a mutual non-disparagement clause, and one more condition I insisted on, a $25,000 grant, made publicly in my name, to a nonprofit promoting ethics in technology. That last one stung them the most. I could see it on Gregory's face. It wasn't about the money, it was the admission, the quiet acknowledgement that ethics had been sacrificed. Elizabeth agreed without hesitation. At 6:15 that evening I logged into my registrar account. Monica watching over video, Vertex's attorneys confirming on the line. I transferred all 7 domains into Vertex's corporate account. 30 seconds later the sites came back online. The false specifications gone, replaced with accurate, verified numbers, and a banner across the homepage reading Product Launch Postponed. New date, November 26th. I closed my laptop. It was over. The fallout played out over the following weeks. The postponed launch made tech headlines, with analysts speculating about technical issues, manufacturing delays, contract disputes. Vertex's stock dropped 11% over 3 days. Nobody outside the company knew the real story. My team reached out one by one. Jennifer took me to dinner. Cal sent a care package with fancy coffee and a card signed by the whole group. They told me Amanda had been shuffled to a different division, that Gregory barely showed his face in the office anymore, and that morale, oddly, was better despite the upheaval. It's like everyone knew something was wrong, Jennifer told me. And now that it's been, dealt with, people feel like maybe the company can get back to actually doing good work. The Real launch happened November 26th, smaller in scale, more modest claims, honest numbers. The automotive contracts got renegotiated down to $280 million combined instead of $350 million, still substantial. Reviews were positive. Solid engineering, realistic performance, a genuine competitor in the autonomous vehicle chip space. Not the revolutionary breakthrough Gregory had wanted to sell, just a good product, honestly presented. Vertex Technologies survived. Job offers started arriving in December. Word travels in tech circles, even without the full story going public. A director-level exit right before a major launch, a severance package, a non-disparagement clause. People read between the lines easily enough. 3 companies made serious offers, and I accepted a VP of digital infrastructure role at a renewable energy tech firm in Denver. Smaller company, better values, a CEO who talked about sustainable growth and actually meant it, ethically and environmentally both. I started in January. My mother called the night before my first day. "Are you nervous?" she asked. "A little." "Good. Means you care. Means you remember what matters." "I remember, Mom. I'm proud of you, Anik. Not because of the fancy title, because you knew when to walk away. That takes more strength than staying ever does." Looking back now, with some distance and a different office in a different city, I still think about that day, the moment in the conference room when Gregory asked if I'd implement the false specifications, the moment I said no, the moment I understood that saying no might cost me everything I'd built. And the moment I realized none of it would have meant anything if it was built on lies. There's a version of this story where I stay quiet, tell myself it isn't my problem, convince myself one compromise wouldn't matter, that everyone does it, that this is just how business works. That version ends with me keeping my job, collecting my bonus, and watching the company I helped build get destroyed anyway once the fake specifications inevitably came out, through customer complaints, engineering analysis, or a regulatory investigation. Because the truth always surfaces eventually. The only question is whether you're the one who told it, or the one who tried to bury it. My father once told me something back when I was learning to code as a teenager. A program either works or it doesn't. You can't convince it, you can't negotiate with it, you can't charm it or intimidate it. Just is what it is. And the best programmers are the ones who respect that reality. Business isn't code. People are messier than programs. But the underlying truth holds: reality doesn't care about quarterly targets, stock prices, or investor expectations. You can't launch a product that doesn't work just because you told everyone it would. You can't run a website without owning the domains. And you can't build a company on dishonesty and expect it to hold up. Those 7 domains represented 4 years of my professional life, thousands of hours, late nights, missed birthdays, canceled vacations. But more than that, they represented a choice to do things properly, to document carefully, secure things correctly, protect infrastructure that actually mattered. I never registered those domains thinking I'd use them as leverage one day. I registered them because I thought I was protecting the company. Turns out protecting the company from itself meant being willing to switch off the lights. Gregory Hartwell left Vertex Technologies 7 months after the Titan launch, officially resigning to pursue other opportunities. Elizabeth Thornton stepped in as interim CEO, and was made permanent 6 months later. Under her, the company shifted towards sustainable growth, transparency, and engineering integrity. Revenue stabilized, the stock recovered, and employee satisfaction climbed. Last I heard, they're doing well. Vincent Ramirez moved to a competitor and lasted 18 months before being let go, ironically, over ethics violations. Amanda Fletcher is still there, running a different division, apparently doing solid work. Lawrence Chan, the VP who originally hired me, reached out a few months back. He's consulting now, helping tech companies build ethical infrastructure. He said something that stuck with me. The people who have the power to break the system are often the ones who built it. That's not a bug. That's a feature. It means the people who care enough to build things right also care enough to protect them. I don't know if I'll ever face a moment like that again. I hope I don't. But if I do, I already know what I'll do. I'll remember my mother's words about strength and memory. I'll remember my father's lessons about reality and respect. And I'll remember 7 domains deactivated at 11:47 p.m. That taught me the most important lesson of my career. The power to build something is also the power to protect it, even if that means tearing it down first. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever faced a choice between principle and profit, between integrity and convenience, between doing what's right and doing what's easy, I hope you'll join this community. Hit that subscribe button. We're building toward 2,000 subscribers, and every single one represents someone who believes these stories matter, who believes accountability isn't optional, who believes the truth is worth protecting, even when it costs us something. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, the domains you register today might be the leverage you need tomorrow, not for revenge, for justice.